The cabin door explodes inward with a sound like thunder splitting the forest. Wood splinters rain across rotting floorboards as Max's 90-pound frame slams through, his golden coat a blur of determination. Behind him, Officer Sarah Chen stumbles through the doorway, radio crackling, voice hoarse from shouting commands that went completely ignored. Max's ears pin back, his body low and focused, moving with a purpose she's never seen. Not in 3 years of working together, not in dozens of rescues. His nose works frantically across the floor, circling, returning to the same spot near the far wall where shadows pool thick and dark. Sarah's hand hovers over her radio, breath caught in her throat. The cabin smells wrong, dust and decay, but something else underneath that makes her skin prickle. Max whines, raw and urgent, scratching at the floorboards with both paws. Then he stops, lifts his head, stares at Sarah with eyes that hold something she can't name. But what he uncovered wasn't just evidence, it was proof someone had been fighting to survive. 3 days earlier, the mountains wore their most welcoming face. Pine trees stood beneath a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Sarah Chen drove up the winding forest road with windows down, watching Max's head hang out the passenger window, tongue lolling in pure joy. For once, he wore no vest, no gear, no expectation beyond being a dog on vacation. The cabin belonged to Sarah's uncle, a retired forest ranger who left his mountain retreat available to family. Sarah had been there a dozen times growing up, catching salamanders, learning animal tracks, listening to stories about lost hikers found just before nightfall. The cabin held good memories, peaceful ones. She'd been a firefighter for 8 years, a handler for 3. Max had come into her life as a 2-year-old golden retriever with an obsessive drive to find things and a temperament that remained unshakable. They'd trained together, found people trapped in rubble, located missing hikers, pulled children from flooded basements. Max's certification scores had been the highest in his class. This weekend was about rest, about stepping away from the radio chatter and emergency tones and constant readiness. She'd packed simple food, brought books she never read, left her work phone in the truck's glove compartment. For 48 hours, she would be just Sarah, and Max would be just Max. The cabin looked exactly as she remembered. Single story, built from logs darkened with age, a stone chimney rising from one end. She unlocked the door, stepping into the familiar smell of wood smoke and old wool blankets. Max trotted inside, investigating every corner, finding a tennis ball under the wood stove and carrying it to Sarah with his tail wagging so hard his whole back end swayed. That first evening passed in perfect quietness. Sarah built a fire, made a sandwich, sat on the floor with Max's head on her knee. Through the window, she watched the sky shift from blue to purple to deep indigo scattered with stars. No sirens, no radio traffic, just crackling fire and Max's steady breathing. She slept deeply that night. When she woke to dawn light, she felt something unfamiliar settling in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it as peace. The second morning arrived with fog thick enough to turn the forest into a ghost world. Sarah could barely see 20 feet from the cabin windows. The temperature had dropped overnight, frost painting the porch railing in delicate crystals. Sarah made coffee while Max ate breakfast, then sat by the door with his leash in his mouth. She smiled and pulled on her jacket. They walked along the familiar trail deeper into the forest, fog muffling everything. Max ranged ahead, nose to the ground, reading the night's news. But then, his behavior changed. Max stopped his usual zigzag pattern. He began moving in a straight line, parallel to the trail but off to the right, pushing through underbrush. His tail stopped wagging. His ears came forward. He moved with purpose instead of playfulness. "Max!" Sarah called. "Here, boy." He didn't come. That alone was unusual. Max's recall was flawless. Sarah called again, sharper. Max paused, turned his head toward her, but his eyes held something she couldn't interpret. Then he kept going. Sarah's instincts prickled. She followed, moving off trail, branches catching at her jacket. Max had disappeared into the fog ahead, but she could hear him, the rustle of movement, the snap of twigs. She called his name again, and this time he barked. Once, sharp and urgent, his alert bark. Sarah's heart kicked faster. She moved quicker, focused only on reaching Max. She found him in a small clearing she didn't remember. The fog swirled thicker here. Max sat rigid beside a fallen log, his entire body pointed at something on the ground. Sarah approached slowly, her training taking over even as her mind insisted this was a vacation. Nothing was wrong. But the moment she saw what held Max's attention, her blood went cold. A shoe. Small, once white, but now stained with mud and weather. A child's sneaker with cartoon characters on the side. Laces tied in double knots. It sat beside the log, as if carefully placed, not lost in panic. Next to it, barely visible in pine needles, was a flattened area, as if someone had sat or laid there. Sarah's hand went to her hip before she remembered she'd left her radio at the cabin. Her phone sat in the truck down the mountain. She stood frozen, breath creating small clouds while Max remained absolutely still. The fog pressed close. The forest held its breath. And Sarah Chen, who had promised herself 48 hours of peace, felt the weight of duty settle back across her shoulders. Because she knew, the way handlers learn to trust their dogs, that Max hadn't found just any forgotten object. He'd found evidence, proof that someone had been here, someone small, someone who might still need finding. The question that made her mouth go dry was simple and terrible. How long had that shoe been waiting, and where was the child who'd worn it? Sarah marked the location in her mind, 100 yards off the main trail, northwest of the cabin, in a clearing bordered by 3 distinctive pines. Then she called Max to heel and moved with purpose back toward the cabin. The work phone came alive with static as soon as she powered it on. 6 missed calls, 14 messages. Sarah called the station first. Dispatch patched her through to the county sheriff's department. Sheriff Wade Morrison had a voice like gravel. Sarah had worked with him before. Competent, thorough, the kind who trusted handlers and their dogs. He listened without interrupting as Sarah described the location, the shoe, Max's alert behavior. "Chen," Morrison said finally, "I need you to describe that shoe again. Every detail." Sarah closed her eyes, picturing it. Small, maybe size 2 or 3. White canvas, cartoon characters. Looked like those adventure show characters kids watch. Pink laces tied in double knots. Weathered but not completely deteriorated. Maybe weeks, possibly longer. Papers rustled. Voices murmured. "We've had a missing person case running for 4 months now. Girl named Emma Hartley, age 8, disappeared from a family camping trip about 15 miles east of your location. Last seen wearing white sneakers with cartoon characters. Pink laces." The fog outside pressed against the cabin windows. 4 months? Search and rescue ran operations for 6 weeks. Dogs, helicopters, ground teams covering hundreds of square miles. Nothing. Not a trace. He paused. Most of us figured. He didn't finish. "Sir," Sarah said, "Max didn't just find a shoe. His behavior indicated more than object location. He was doing his alert, the one he uses for live finds. You think there's someone out there? After 4 months? I think Max was telling me something matters about that site. He's never been wrong before." Morrison exhaled. "I'm sending units up. Stay at that location. Don't touch anything else. We'll be there in 90 minutes. He paused. "If this is connected to the Hartley case, that family's been through hell. We need to be sure before we give them hope." Sarah understood. Hope was a weapon that could save or destroy. "We'll be here." She sat on the porch steps despite the cold. Max came to sit beside her, leaning his weight against her leg. The fog showed no signs of lifting. Somewhere out there, a child's shoe waited. Somewhere beyond that, a family waited for news that might never come. Her phone buzzed. Text from her captain. "Saw the report. Good work. Take whatever time needed." Another message from Dana Reeves. "Morrison briefed me. Bringing full team. Hope you're right about this." Sarah hoped so too. She thought about Emma Hartley, 8 years old, 4 months missing. White sneakers with cartoon characters and pink laces tied by a parent's careful hands. Max pressed closer. His body trembled slightly. Not from cold, but restrained energy. He knew they were working now. His nose lifted, testing the air, reading things Sarah couldn't interpret. "What did you find, boy?" she whispered. Max stood, walked to the porch edge, and stared into the fog-wrapped forest, waiting, ready. The sound of vehicles reached them before shapes appeared through fog, engines laboring up the mountain road. Sarah stood, squaring her shoulders. The quiet weekend was over. The work had begun. Max barked once, sharp, certain, ready. The sheriff's department arrived with precision. 3 SUVs emerged from fog like ghosts, light bars dark. Sheriff Morrison came first, a man built like an oak stump. Behind him came Dana Reeves, the search and rescue coordinator. 4 deputies followed, along with 2 other handlers. Morrison approached with hand extended. "Show us." No preamble, No wasted words. Sarah led them to the trail, Max moving ahead with his nose already working. The fog had thinned slightly. The group moved in silence, boots finding purchase on damp trail. When they reached the point where Max had left the trail, Sarah gestured. Here, approximately 100 yards to a clearing. They pushed through underbrush, moving slower now, careful not to disturb evidence. Deputies spread out. Max stopped in the clearing, sitting rigid beside the fallen log. Sarah called out, "Mark!" Morrison and Reeves approached carefully. Morrison crouched beside the shoe, pulling latex gloves from his pocket. He studied it from multiple angles, face betraying nothing. "That's Emma's shoe," a younger deputy said. "I was on the original search, those exact shoes. Her mother showed us pictures." Morrison's jaw tightened. "Jenkins, get photos." He stood looking at Sarah. "Your dog alerted here?" "Yes, sir. Strong alert, the kind he gives for live finds." "After 4 months?" Dana Reeves spoke up. "I've seen dogs alert on scent traces weeks old if conditions were right. This elevation, the cold, it's possible. He's a good dog, Wade. If he says something matters, I'd trust that." Morrison nodded. "Can Max track from this point?" Sarah's heart rate picked up. "I can try to work him, but I need to understand the terrain and search history." Reeves pulled out a laminated map. The clearing's location was marked with a red circle, just at the edge of the original search grid. "We covered this area in week 2. Grid search, 3 teams including 2 dogs, they found nothing. But it was August, hot, 3 days of heavy rain. Scent conditions were poor. Or something wasn't here then," Morrison added quietly. Sarah studied the map. The terrain beyond rose steeply toward a ridgeline. Multiple ravines, seasonal streams, dozens of places someone small could hide or be hidden. "I can work him from here," Sarah said, "but I need everyone to clear back." Morrison gave orders. Deputies moved back. Jenkins photographed and bagged the shoe. Sarah knelt beside Max, unclipped his standard lead, and attached a 30-foot tracking line. She let him smell the area around the shoe. Max's nostrils flared, processing invisible information. "Find them," Sarah said softly. "Find them, Max." Max's head came up. His nose worked the air rapidly. He moved in a circle around the log, widening his search pattern. Then he stopped, body oriented toward the northeast up the slope. He whined, looked back at Sarah, asking permission. Sarah's radio crackled. "Chen, you reading something? He's got scent direction, northeast, upslope, requesting permission to track." A pause. "Go. But if you find anything at all, you stop immediately and call it in. Don't touch, don't disturb. Clear?" "Clear." Sarah stood. "Okay, boy. Seek." Max moved, purposeful, nose to ground, following invisible trails. Sarah followed, letting the line play out. The clearing faded behind them. The mountain rose into mystery, and with every step deeper into wilderness, Sarah felt the weight of the question that had hung over this case. Was there anyone left to find? The terrain fought them. What looked like a straightforward upslope revealed itself as a maze. Max led them across a slope tilted at 45 degrees. Rocks jutted at odd angles. Fallen trees created barriers they had to climb over or crawl under. Sarah's radio crackled every few minutes. Morrison wanting updates. Reeves checking position. Sarah responded in brief bursts. Still tracking northeast, crossing creek bed, elevation approximately 7,200 feet. Max's behavior concerned her. His confidence remained absolute, but his pace had increased. He was pulling harder now, moving with urgency. His body language showed tension Sarah had learned to read. He wasn't just following scent, he was reacting to it. They'd been tracking 40 minutes when the trees began to thin. Max led her around a massive boulder, and suddenly they were standing at the mouth of something unexpected. A ravine opened before them, perhaps 30 feet wide, its bottom choked with brush. The sides dropped steeply. Water trickled somewhere below. Max stopped at the edge, nose working frantically. He whined, looked back at Sarah, then down into the ravine. Sarah keyed her radio. "Morrison, we've reached a ravine. Max is indicating strong interest in descending. Hold position, getting your coordinates and sending support. Don't attempt a descent without backup." Sarah studied the ravine. The sides were unstable, loose rock and dirt. The brush below was dense enough to hide almost anything. Max began working his way along the rim, searching for a path. 20 feet along, he stopped where the slope gentled slightly. He looked back at Sarah. The message was clear. "This is the way." Sarah made a decision. "I'm going to attempt a controlled descent with Max. If we don't report back in 15 minutes, send the team. Chen, I strongly advise. Max has a strong track. I'm pursuing it. Chen out. She clipped the radio away before Morrison could order her to wait. Then she checked Max's harness and began the descent. Max went first, his four-legged stability superior. Sarah followed, using trees and rocks for handholds. The descent took 7 minutes. When they reached bottom, Sarah found herself in a different world. The ravine bottom was twilight dim. Moss covered everything. The air smelled of rot and moisture and earth. Max moved immediately, heading upstream. Sarah followed, pushing through brush. The ravine curved, and as they rounded the bend, Max stopped. His entire body went rigid. His hackles rose slightly. He took 3 more steps and sat, the formal alert. Sarah's mouth went dry. She moved to where Max sat, eyes scanning. At first she saw nothing but brush and deadfall. Then her perspective shifted. A depression in the ground, partially hidden under a fallen pine bough. Something blue-gray that wasn't quite rock. She moved closer, gently pushing aside the bough. Underneath she found fabric, a jacket, child-sized, weathered but intact, and beside it, something that made her breath catch. A shelter, crude, improvised, but unmistakably intentional. Someone had woven branches together, piled brush against the ravine wall, created a pocket of space barely large enough for a small body, nearly invisible, but once Sarah's eyes understood, the structure became obvious. Sarah's hands shook as she keyed the radio. Morrison, I've found a shelter, intentional construction, child-sized. Evidence of prolonged occupation, no sign of... She couldn't say it. No sign of a body. The radio burst to life. Your exact location. Sarah read off GPS coordinates. Bottom of ravine, approximately 60 yards upstream from entry point. Anyone there now? Recent signs? Sarah looked around. Max had moved to the shelter's entrance, sniffing intently. His tail wagged slightly. Max is showing positive interest, but I can't determine when this was last occupied. Don't touch anything else. We're coming to you. Full team, medical support. Affirmative. Sarah sat back, mind racing. Someone had survived long enough to build this. Emma Hartley had been 8 years old, vanished 4 months ago. 8 years old, lost in wilderness, alone in weather that would have killed most adults. Max whined softly. Sarah looked at him. He wasn't done. He was telling her something more. She stood, gave him slack. What is it, boy? Show me. Max moved past the shelter, continuing upstream. After 20 feet, he stopped at a small cave-like depression. Max whined again, more urgent. He pawed at the ground. Sarah approached, flashlight sweeping the small space. Empty, but not unused. More fabric, a dirty blanket, a cracked plastic bottle holding water, and scratched into the rock wall in shaky, childish letters, Emma Pas Mama. Sarah's vision blurred. She focused the flashlight on those words. A child's handwriting, a child's hope. The scratches looked recent, edges showing less weathering than surrounding rock. Max sat beside her, job done, waiting for acknowledgement. Sarah touched his head with a shaking hand. Good boy, such a good boy. Voices reached them from above. Multiple people descending, medical gear clanging, radios crackling. Morrison's voice calling out. Sarah keyed her radio. 60 yards upstream from original shelter, I've found another site, evidence of recent occupation. Sheriff, I think... She paused, letting herself believe it. I think Emma Hartley might still be alive. The ravine bottom became controlled chaos. Morrison descended with a team of 4 deputies, 2 paramedics, and Dana Reeves. They moved quickly but carefully, documenting everything, photographing the shelter, bagging evidence. Dana Reeves studied the carved message, her flashlight beam holding steady on Emma's name. When she looked at Sarah, her eyes held something fierce. These scratches are fresh, maybe days old, possibly hours. The edges are still sharp. She called to Morrison. Wade, she was here recently. Morrison's face remained neutral, but his hand tightened on his radio. He stepped away, speaking in low tones. Sarah caught fragments. Notify the family. Medical transport. Expand search radius. He was preparing for a living rescue. One of the paramedics emerged from examining the shelters. She was young, with dark hair pulled back. She spoke to Morrison with clipped efficiency. Both sites show signs of long-term occupation. The first shelter has vegetation growth suggesting weeks, possibly months. The second site's newer, maybe days to 2 weeks. Whoever built these moved between them. There's evidence of food consumption, berry stains, fish bones, small animal remains. Water collection using basic condensation. Someone was trying to survive with limited resources, but functional problem-solving. An 8-year-old child? Morrison's question carried skepticism. Children have survived worse with less. If Emma had wilderness knowledge, if her family camped regularly, and if she had minimal shelter from worst weather, she didn't need to finish. Morrison turned to Sarah. Can Max track further? Sarah looked at her dog. Max stood at attention, showing no fatigue. His nose worked the air constantly. He can try, but Sheriff, we need to consider that if Emma's been here this long, she might be scared. If she hears us, hears a helicopter, she might hide. Children who've been lost that long sometimes become fearful of rescuers. Dana Reeves nodded. It's called survival syndrome. The child adapts to being alone, starts to see humans as threats. Your dog's calm demeanor might be our best asset. Morrison absorbed this. All right, Chen, work Max upstream. We'll follow at a distance. If he alerts, we let the dog make first contact. Reeves, coordinate with air support. Tell them to stay high, not to spook anyone. Sarah checked Max's vest, verified the tracking line. The paramedics prepared a pediatric medical kit. Deputies assembled a basket stretcher. Okay, Max, Sarah said softly. Find them. Find Emma. Seek. Max moved upstream immediately, following invisible scent. The brush thinned as they progressed. After 100 yards, the ravine began to shallow. Max's pace increased, his tail lifted, body language shifting into something Sarah had seen before, the end stage of a successful track. The ravine opened into a small valley where 3 seasonal streams converged. Trees grew thick here, creating shade. A natural spring bubbled from rocks at the valley's eastern edge. And there, beneath the spreading branches of an ancient pine, was a shelter that made the others look like practice attempts. Someone had constructed this with time and care, branches woven deliberately, creating walls that would shed rain, a roof angled to prevent water accumulation, a small opening facing south, positioned to catch maximum daylight. Inside, visible through that opening, Sarah could see bedding made from pine needles, a pile of stored pine cones, smooth rocks arranged in a circle. Max stopped 30 feet from the shelter. He sat. His tail wagged slowly, but he didn't approach closer. He looked at Sarah, then back at the shelter, then at Sarah again. The message was clear. She's here, but I won't go further without you. Sarah's heart thundered. She keyed her radio, speaking barely above a whisper. I have visual on an advanced shelter structure. Max is alerting, requesting instructions. Hold position, let the dog make first approach. Sarah knelt beside Max. She spoke in a calm voice. Good boy, such a good boy. Then, raising her voice slightly but keeping it gentle, she called toward the shelter. Emma Hartley. My name is Sarah. I'm here to help you. I've brought my dog, Max. He's very friendly. We're here to take you home to your mama. Silence. The forest held its breath. Sarah tried again. Emma, I know you might be scared. That's okay, you've been very brave. But you don't have to be alone anymore. Your mama's been looking for you every single day. We're here to bring you to her. Movement. Subtle. The pine needle bedding shifted. Max wants to meet you, Sarah said. Can he come say hello? He's very good with kids. He's helped find lots of people. More movement. Then, emerging from the shelter's opening with heartbreaking slowness, came a hand. Small, dirty, fingernails broken. The hand gripped the shelter's edge and a face followed. A little girl's face, barely recognizable under layers of grime, hair matted, cheeks hollow. But her eyes held life. They held awareness. Emma Hartley looked at Sarah. Then her eyes found Max. Puppy? The word was barely more than a croak, her voice rough from disuse. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. Yes, sweetheart. A very good puppy. His name is Max. Would you like him to come closer? Emma nodded, just barely. Sarah gave Max the hand signal. He moved slowly, body language soft, tail wagging gently. When he reached Emma, he sat. Emma's small hand reached out, touched his head. Her fingers sank into his fur. And then, like a dam breaking, the little girl collapsed forward, arms wrapping around Max's neck, face buried in his coat, sobs shaking her frame. Max stood perfectly still, letting her hold him, letting her cry, giving her the first comfort she'd probably felt in months. Sarah keyed her radio with shaking hands. Morrison, we found her. Emma Hartley is alive. I repeat, Emma is alive. We need medical now. She's conscious, responsive, but appears severely malnourished. Get the bird down here immediately. The radio exploded with voices, but Sarah barely heard it. She was focused on Emma, on the miracle of this child who had survived 4 months alone. Sarah approached slowly, knelt a few feet away. "Emma, honey, I'm going to come a little closer. My friends are coming to help too. We're going to get you warm and give you food and water and take you to see your mama. Is that okay?" Emma lifted her head from Max's fur. Her eyes met Sarah's, and she nodded with more strength, with trust beginning to replace fear. The paramedics arrived, moving with controlled urgency. Emma allowed them to approach, though her hand never left Max's coat. They worked around her, wrapping her in reflective blankets, checking vitals, speaking gently. One of them looked at Sarah with wonder. Her core temperatures low but stable, heart rates elevated but strong, severely dehydrated and malnourished, but she shook her head. 4 months, a child this age. It shouldn't be possible, but it was. Emma Hartley had survived. The helicopter's sound reached them, rotors beating air. Emma flinched at the noise, pressing closer to Max. Sarah moved to her side, hand gentle on Emma's shoulder. "That's our ride home, sweetheart. It's going to be loud, but it's safe. We're all going to fly together, you and me and Max. Would that be okay?" Emma looked up at her. "Mama?" Sarah's throat tightened. "Yes, we're taking you to your mama. She's been waiting for you every single day." The helicopter touched down, creating a windstorm. Emma buried her face against Max again, but she didn't run. She trusted now. The paramedics loaded Emma onto the basket stretcher, securing her carefully. Sarah received Morrison's immediate permission. She would ride with Emma. Max would come too. As they lifted off, Sarah looked down at the valley below. She saw the shelter Emma had built, saw the ravine where she'd survived, saw the vast wilderness that had nearly swallowed her but hadn't quite succeeded. Emma's small hand found Sarah's. Her eyes were closing now. Exhaustion finally allowed its due. Her last words before she slept were barely audible over the helicopter's noise. "Thank you for finding me." Sarah squeezed her hand gently. "Thank Max, sweetheart. He's the one who knew you were there." Emma's hand shifted, finding Max's fur again, and holding on tight, she let herself finally truly let go of the fear, because she was flying now. She was going home, and the nightmare was finally, mercifully, over. The hospital emergency room had been prepared. Word of Emma's rescue had spread through official channels, and by the time the helicopter touched down on the hospital's rooftop helipad, a full trauma team waited. The doors burst open the moment the skids touched concrete, and Emma disappeared into controlled medical storm. Sarah and Max were gently moved aside. A nurse guided them to a waiting area, brought water for Max and coffee for Sarah that sat untouched. Sarah couldn't sit still. She paced while Max lay near the door, head up, watching the hallway. Morrison arrived 30 minutes later, still wearing field clothes. He sat heavily and rubbed his face. "Never thought I'd see this day. 4 months. Most of us had given up hope." "Is her mother here?" Sarah asked. "On her way from Seattle when we called her." Morrison's voice caught. "First time I got to deliver good news about a missing child. She'll be here in 40 minutes. Dana Reeves appeared, carrying a laptop. "I've been coordinating with the medical team. Emma's stable, severely dehydrated, malnourished, showing signs of prolonged exposure, but no life-threatening injuries. Minor frostbite, several healed fractures in her left hand, evidence of repeated infections her body fought off, but she's alive, aware, and should make a full recovery." Sarah felt something loosen in her chest. Reeves opened her laptop, showing a map. "I've been looking at terrain between where Emma disappeared and where we found her. Almost 15 miles of rough country. Somehow this 8-year-old covered that distance, probably in the first few weeks. Then she found that valley with spring water and decided to stay, built shelters, learned to survive." Morrison leaned forward. "How does a child that age know how to do that?" "Her father," Reeves said. "I pulled the original case file. Emma's father died 2 years ago. He was a wilderness guide, taught survival courses. The family said he'd been teaching Emma basics since she was old enough to walk, how to find water, build shelter, which plants were safe. She loved it, treated it like games." Reeves's voice softened. "She survived because her father prepared her." Sarah thought about those words carved in stone. Emma plus Mama. The father was gone. The mother was who Emma had been trying to reach. A doctor emerged, a woman in her 50s with silver-threaded black hair and calm competence. "Are you the handler who found Emma?" Sarah stood. "Yes, ma'am. She's asking for Max. Won't settle until she sees him. Is it possible? He's a certified rescue dog. He's been in hospitals before. If it will help Emma, he's all hers." The doctor smiled. "Follow me." They walked through corridors until they reached a room where warm light spilled into the hallway. Emma Hartley lay in a hospital bed that made her look impossibly small. She'd been cleaned up, face scrubbed, hair washed though still tangled, body wrapped in warm blankets with IV lines running into her thin arms. Monitors beeped steadily. When the door opened, Emma's eyes snapped open and found Max immediately. "Puppy," she said, her voice stronger now. Sarah led Max to the bedside. He placed his front paws on the bed's edge, gentle and careful. Emma reached out, sank her fingers into his fur. The little girl's face transformed. The fear faded. She smiled, actually smiled. "He found you," Sarah said softly. "We were on vacation, and Max found your shoe. He wouldn't stop until we followed. He knew you needed help." Emma looked from Max to Sarah, processing with the seriousness of someone twice her age. "I left that shoe there on purpose. I kept moving it to different places, hoping someone would find it. But nobody came. For so long, nobody came." Sarah's throat tightened. Emma had been trying to leave clues, doing everything a child could think of to be found. "Your mama's coming," Sarah told her. "She'll be here very soon. She never stopped looking for you, Emma." Emma's eyes filled with tears. Not scared tears, but relief and hope. "I thought maybe she forgot about me, when nobody came for so long." "Never," Sarah said fiercely. "Your mama could never forget you." 20 minutes later, running footsteps echoed through the corridor, a woman's voice calling Emma's name with desperate urgency. Then the door burst open and Jennifer Hartley stumbled into the room. Jennifer looked like she'd aged decades in 4 months. Her face was gaunt, eyes ringed with shadows. She wore jeans and a sweater thrown on haphazardly, but when she saw Emma in that hospital bed, alive and awake and real, everything else fell away. "Emma," she breathed, then louder. "Emma! Mama!" Sarah pulled Max back as Jennifer crossed the room and gathered Emma into her arms. The monitors protested, IV lines pulled taut, nurses rushed in, but none of it mattered because mother and daughter were holding each other with 4 months of separation in their grip. They both sobbed. Jennifer's whole body shook as she held Emma, hands running over her daughter's face, checking that she was real. Emma clung to her mother with equal desperation, crying words that tumbled over each other. "I'm sorry, Mama. I got lost. I tried to come back. I was so scared. I missed you so much." "You're here now," Jennifer kept saying. "You're here. You're safe. I've got you. I'll never let go. Never again." Sarah backed toward the door with Max, giving them privacy for a reunion that felt too sacred for strangers to witness. After long minutes, Jennifer looked up, face wet with tears, eyes finding Sarah. "You found her. You and—" She looked at Max. "The rescue dog. You're the team that found my baby." "Max found her," Sarah said. "I just followed where he led." Jennifer stood carefully, crossed to where Sarah and Max waited. She knelt in front of Max, taking his face in her hands, looking into his brown eyes with profound gratitude. "Thank you," Jennifer whispered to Max. "Thank you for bringing her home to me." Max's tail wagged. He leaned forward and licked Jennifer's cheek gently. Jennifer wrapped her arms around Max's neck, holding him, crying into his fur. When she finally stood, she turned to Sarah. "I don't know how to thank you. You gave me my daughter back. You gave me my life back. You don't have to say anything," Sarah replied. "This is what we do for moments exactly like this." Jennifer shook her head. "It's more than that. 4 months of hell, of not knowing, of imagining the worst, and you ended it." She looked at Morrison, at Reeves, at the doctors. "All of you. Thank you doesn't come close." Morrison cleared his throat. "Ma'am, you just focus on your daughter. We're going to need statements eventually, but that can wait." Jennifer nodded, already turning back to Emma. Before she reached the bed, she paused, looking back at Sarah. "What Emma went through, I don't understand how she did it." "Her father prepared her," Sarah said gently. "She told me she remembered what he taught her. She found water, built shelter, kept herself alive because she had the knowledge and because she had you to come back to." Fresh tears streamed down Jennifer's face. He'd be so proud of her. "He always said she was the strongest person he knew." She smiled through tears. He was right. Sarah and Max left the room, walked out into afternoon sunlight that felt too bright. Max looked up at her. Sarah knelt beside him, wrapped her arms around his neck. "You stubborn, brilliant, wonderful dog," she whispered. "You didn't listen. You didn't obey. And because you didn't, a little girl gets to go home." Max leaned into her, solid and warm. His tail thumped against pavement. They walked back to Sarah's truck together. Max jumped into the passenger seat, settled with the contentment of a job well done. Sarah started the engine, but before pulling out, She looked back at the building where Emma Hartley was being reunited with her mother. "Good boy, Max," she said one more time. "The very best boy." Max's tail wagged. Then he laid his head on his paws, closed his eyes, and finally, truly rested. 3 months later, snow dusted the mountains. Sarah stood on the cabin porch watching Max play with Emma Hartley in the clearing below. Emma wore a thick winter coat, her laughter carrying through cold air as she threw snowballs that Max caught or dodged with equal enthusiasm. Jennifer Hartley stood beside Sarah, holding hot chocolate, eyes never leaving her daughter. The shadows under her eyes had faded. She looked like someone returned to the world of the living. "The doctors say she's doing remarkably well," Jennifer said. "Physically, she's almost back to normal. Psychologically," she watched Emma shriek with joy as Max bounded through a snowdrift. "She has nightmares sometimes, gets anxious if she can't see me, but she's laughing again, playing again, being 8 years old again." "That's what matters," Sarah said. "The therapist says Emma's resilience is extraordinary. She just keeps saying she always knew someone would find her. She believed it so completely that even when weeks turned into months, she never lost hope." Jennifer's voice caught. "I don't know where she got that strength." "She got it from you," Sarah said, "and from her father, and from something inside herself that refused to quit." Emma called out from below, "Miss Sarah, Max is being silly." Sarah laughed. "That's because Max doesn't understand snowballs aren't tennis balls." Jennifer smiled. "She talks about him constantly." She asked if we could adopt a dog. I said yes before she finished the question. "We're getting a golden retriever puppy next month. Emma wants to name him Scout." "That's a good name," Sarah said. They stood in comfortable silence, watching child and dog play in snow. The search for Emma had made national news. The story had been featured on every major network. Sarah had given dozens of interviews, appeared on morning shows, told the story so many times, it started to feel rehearsed. But standing here watching Emma simply be a child again, that felt more real than any interview. Emma ran up the cabin steps, cheeks flushed with cold and happiness. "Mama, can we come back here next summer? Miss Sarah said there are salamanders in the creek." Jennifer's face showed a moment of fear. This was where Emma had disappeared. But then she looked at her daughter's eager expression, saw how Emma had reclaimed this landscape. Jennifer swallowed hard and nodded. "Yes, sweetheart, we can come back." Emma threw her arms around Sarah's waist. "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for bringing Max." Sarah hugged her back, this fierce little survivor. "Thank you for leaving clues for Max to find. Thank you for building those shelters and staying alive. Thank you for not giving up." Emma pulled back, dark eyes serious. "My daddy taught me to never give up. He said that's the most important rule. Keep trying, keep moving, keep hoping." She looked down at Max. "But I was really lonely. Until Max came. Then I knew I was going to be okay." Jennifer placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. "Say goodbye, honey. We need to start heading home." Emma knelt beside Max, wrapping her arms around him one more time. "Goodbye, Max. I love you. Thank you for finding me." Max licked her face. Emma giggled and wiped her face, then stood and took her mother's hand. Together they walked to their car, Emma turning back 3 times to wave. Sarah watched them drive away until the car disappeared around a bend. Then she looked at Max, who sat beside her on the porch. "You did good, boy," Sarah said quietly. "You saved her life. You gave a mother her daughter back. You turned a tragedy into a miracle." Max looked up at her, brown eyes warm and steady. He didn't understand the magnitude of what he'd done. For him, it had just been following a scent, doing what he'd been trained to do. He didn't know about news coverage or commendations, or that his actions would be studied in search and rescue courses for years. He just knew that he'd found someone who needed finding, and that was enough. Sarah sat on the porch steps, Max settling beside her with his head on her knee. The sun was setting, painting snow-covered mountains in shades of pink and gold. The forest was quiet, except for wind through pine branches and the distant call of a raven. Peace looked different now. It wasn't about escaping duty. It was about knowing that the work mattered, that the bond between her and Max served a purpose greater than either of them alone, that sometimes refusing to obey orders was exactly the right thing to do. "Next time," Sarah told Max, "when you ignore my commands and go off on your own, I'm going to trust you right away, because you see things I can't, and you know things I don't, and your instincts are better than my training." Max's tail thumped against the porch. Sarah stood eventually, went inside to pack for the drive home. Max followed, his presence a constant comfort. Tomorrow they'd return to the station, to the routine of training and drills and waiting for the next emergency. But there would never be another rescue quite like Emma Hartley. There would never be another moment when a dog's refusal to obey, a handler's willingness to trust, and a child's desperate hope aligned so perfectly to create something everyone had stopped believing was possible. As Sarah turned off the cabin lights and locked the door, as she and Max walked to the truck under a sky brilliant with stars, she understood something fundamental about the work they did. It wasn't just about training or equipment or protocols. It was about faith. Faith that someone out there needed finding. Faith that a dog's nose could detect what human eyes missed. Faith that miracles were possible if you refused to stop looking. Emma Hartley had survived 4 months in wilderness that should have killed her. She'd survived because her father had taught her, because her mother never stopped believing, because an 8-year-old girl had more strength than anyone imagined. But she'd been found because a dog had followed a scent, because a handler had trusted her partner, because sometimes the universe aligned in ways that defied logic. Sarah started the truck, Max already settled in the passenger seat. She pulled onto the forest road, heading down the mountain toward home. Behind them, the cabin receded into darkness. Ahead, civilization's lights began to appear. But Sarah carried the wilderness with her, carried the memory of a little girl emerging from a shelter, carried the weight of a mother's tears of joy, carried the knowledge that small miracles still happened. Dogs still found lost children, families still reunited, hope still won over despair if you held on to it long enough. Max sighed in his sleep, chasing dreams Sarah couldn't see. She reached over and placed her hand on his head, felt the warmth of him. "Good boy," she whispered one more time. "The very best boy." And in the darkness of a mountain night, with stars overhead and the road unwinding ahead, Sarah Chen drove home with her partner beside her, both of them resting after a job well done, both of them ready for whatever came next, both of them knowing that loyalty, instinct, and unwavering dedication could move mountains. Sometimes heroes wear badges and carry radios and years of training, but sometimes they walk on 4 paws, follow their noses, and refuse to give up on a scent that tells them someone, somewhere, desperately needs to be found. And when that happens, miracles become possible.